Hi, my name is Dr. Muyoka. Welcome to my channel, Retracing My Africa. I'm very excited to have you here. I'm coming straight from Nairobi, Kenya with this video, and I hope that you'll stick around to the very end. I am going to be looking at the question of mental health in today's video. I think it's very important for us to address this issue because here in sub-Saharan Africa, there's a very high prevalence of mental ill health, especially since the pandemic. From Since the pandemic, actually before the pandemic, according to the World Health Organization, over 116 million people in sub-Saharan Africa were suffering from mental health issues. You can imagine it's a very, very high rate, very high prevalence, large numbers of people across the continent who are suffering from mental ill health. And when the pandemic came and we had the lockdowns and the controlled movement, all of this, plus the fear of contracting COVID-19, the deaths of people from COVID-19, all of these issues contributed to a high rate in mental health. So, as part of my series on family life, African family life, I really wanted to touch on the question of um, mental health. So, I would like to just show you a little bit of what I've drawn here in terms of some of the mental health conditions that people across the continent continue to grapple with on a daily basis. I hope you can see this. I'm sorry, let me put it this way. Yeah, so you can see there, I've written a couple of them. We have anxiety, yeah, depression, PTSD, which is the post-traumatic stress disorder. You have schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and you have panic disorder. These are some of the conditions that we have people suffering from on the continent. And some of the statistics I have seen indicate that at least 100 million people on the continent suffer from clinical depression, and 66 million of this population are women. So you see, we have a real crisis on the continent currently. Uh, and I think that we need to really tackle the issue of mental health in Africa. If you look at the statistics, 85% of people that are suffering from mental ill health don't have access to care, don't have access to psychiatric or therapeutic care. So these are critical issues because we cannot live uh, everyday life suffering and suffering silently, without any type of intervention. And that's why I thought perhaps this would be a good topic to tackle so that we can really think through what it is that we can do to address the question of mental health in Africa. And I spent some time drawing stuff around to just help illustrate my arguments. So, what are some of the factors that are contributing to mental ill health in Africa? If you look at my little drawing here, I indicate some of these factors. For example, we have extreme poverty, yeah, we have unemployment, and we have drug and substance abuse that's contributing. And by the way, these three things at some point interact with each other. So you have people that are in poverty because they have no employment, they have no income, and then out of the stress and frustration, they end up abusing drugs and substances and alcohol, that kind of thing. And we also have other factors that are contributing to mental ill health, such as trauma. So if you have somebody that had a traumatic experience growing up, they were abused during childhood, they had neglect, that is, they were neglected by the caregiver, or they were being physically, psychologically, and sexually abused. These are some of the factors that can contribute to mental ill health because this can be long term, following a child into adulthood. And we also have other factors such as, for example, illness, HIV, cancer, and some other type of conditions that can contribute to a person uh, ending up with a mental health condition. We also have bereavement. If a person has complicated grief, for example, where they lose a loved one and just end up not really coping well with this loss, and the grief carries on for far too long, and then this can end up turning into depression. So these are some of the contributors to mental ill health. You have also things like war, exposure to violent conflict, like what we are seeing in the Congo, in the DRC right now, in Eastern DRC, where there's an ongoing conflict. You also have what's happened in Tigray, in the northern part of Ethiopia, where there's been conflict for quite some time now. Women and children have been gravely affected. Women have been raped, children have seen their mothers being killed, and others who have witnessed very violent conflict towards them and their loved ones and their community members. These sorts of things can contribute to mental ill health in individuals. I also have on this list the LGBTQI community, for the reason that this particular community, especially here in Africa, people who identify as such tend to be targeted, they are socially stigmatized, they're discriminated against, and they might be treated very differently even within the family setting. And all this can contribute to such an individual feeling withdrawn, feeling isolated, feeling like they don't have a sense of belonging in the family or in the community. And that can contribute to their poor mental health. Yeah. So there are a lot of issues, there are a lot of factors that can contribute to uh, mental mental ill health in an individual. And here in Africa, some of the challenges that actually exacerbate the situation are, for example, the stigmatization of the condition or the illness. If somebody was having, say, for example, depression or schizophrenia or bipolar, any of these conditions, and you find that the family or the community stigmatize this individual, it becomes very difficult to cope. Actually, the stigma is the reason why, in many instances, individuals are not willing to come out and disclose that they are suffering. So, in many instances, people suffer quietly, they are not speaking out, they're not seeking help. And so sometimes you find that someone even ends up dying by suicide, and family members and friends get very shocked and surprised that this person had been suffering silently, that they hadn't talked about it. But the reason why, in many instances, individuals remain silent is because of the stigma that is attached to mental ill health. We grow up here in Africa, really stigmatizing people that suffer from mental health conditions. I mean, you just take, for example, like I live here in Nairobi, and oftentimes when I am just walking around the streets or even in the neighborhood where I live, I see sometimes people that look like they might be suffering from a mental health condition. These individuals sometimes will appear unkept, dirty, probably haven't eaten, or they will be digging up food in the dustbins. Like their behavior is just abnormal. And yet very often you find that people, just pass by. These individuals seem to have been left to their own elements. There doesn't seem to be any help for these people. And sometimes people are afraid of them. They don't want to come near such individuals. They're afraid that maybe the person might turn and attack them, or become aggressive towards them. So, that's how it is here. And so you have a situation where mental health, in many, many cases, remains unaddressed. Here in Kenya, to go and see a psychiatrist or to just have therapeutic care, it's expensive to go even for just one session. You might find that depending on what facility you go and what service they provide, if you're going for, say, for example, counseling or some type of talk therapy, uh, depending on the qualifications of the person you're seeing, you could end up paying anywhere between $30 to $50 for just one session of treatment. And so this kind of cost that very often is out of pocket, it's out of reach for many people. they are not able to afford this type of costs. And so you find that in everyday life, people are suffering, but they're not getting the care they need. So as a result, whatever condition they might be suffering from, this condition might end up just getting from bad to worse, and maybe somebody ends up dying by suicide, causing harm to themselves or to others, you know. And so that's the situation here in Kenya and in the rest of Africa, I believe. So we need to take action. I believe it's time for us to do something about the mental health crisis that we're faced with on the continent. Um, and in today's video, I just wanted to share some tips. I thought we have to have people that we call helpers, people that can come and intervene and help out and try and address, you know, the kind of suffering that you see with those that are having mental health issues. So in today's video, I'm just going to look at ordinary, everyday people who can play the role of a helper. So, in my definition of a helper, if you are a helper, this is what you can do. Number one, you need to show love and compassion to individuals that you suspect may be suffering from a mental health condition. Please show them love and compassion. Number two, if you can, find them help. Reach out to people who have the capacity and the will to intervene. Number three, be an advocate. Okay? Speak out on behalf of people that suffer from mental ill health. If you have any type of platform out there, whether it's the social media platforms, radio, television, or any other way that you can, or even in-person advocacy, please speak out. Let people know that, you know, mental ill health is not the end of life. It really is just like any other condition, something that people live with, people cope with. And so we shouldn't stigmatize persons that are living with mental ill health. So you can become an advocate and use your platforms to share the gospel and let people know that, you know, we can reach out and try to be compassionate to people that are suffering. And number four, if you can, connect those that need help to social networks, the relevant social networks, support groups, because in some of our communities and wherever you are on the continent of Africa, there are support groups, and the support groups are either in person or online. You can find support groups on Facebook and other platforms. You know, if you're aware of this, if you're aware of these support groups, by all means, please try and connect people that may need support, because support groups are very critical. They help individuals to connect with others that are, you know, experiencing the same situations. And so by sitting together and sharing and talking, one might find that they're not alone, and they'll find that they're actually able to cope better with whatever condition that they might be suffering from or grappling with. So those are the four tips that I thought I should share with you. If you want to be a helper, if you want to have impact, if you want to make a difference in the lives of individuals suffering from mental ill health, this is really how you can try to reach out, by showing compassion, connecting them to the necessary individuals that can help, and being an advocate. Having said that, I'm going to end my video here. Thank you so much for listening, and I would like you to please consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and please, in the comments, can you let me know where you are in Africa and how your country is addressing the question of mental health. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye.